Okay, couture crafters, let's get into this turnabout colorful card, really. Again, this is a turnabout by Concord and Ninth, who are the only people that I think actually make turnabout stamps at this point. I love turnabouts. I could do this all day from sun up to sundown. I have a couple different ones, and they're just so much fun to me, in my opinion. Just love them. So I'm going to show you how to prep them. This is a one-time thing. You only have to do this one time with each stamp. So on the back, you see that little X, that box? I'm lining up the stamp so that it matches up with the pattern. It takes me a second to do it, but once you've done it, you've done it. So again, I'm lining up that little Christmas box there, and then there's an X. So again, lining it up takes a minute for me to line it up and get it the where I feel like it's perfect. And then I just take that ruler and I go from edge to edge of that stamp. The stamp is shaped funny, but that's okay. And then I do the same thing on the other side. I don't trace that actual box, just the X across the whole stamp. And I'm using a permanent marker to do that. So then I grab a 6x6 piece of cardstock, always a 6x6, and I go from corner to corner, finding center. This is going to be your template. So this is just a piece of heavyweight cardstock. Anything, you can do it on anything, 6x6, and corner to corner. So then the object of the game is to take that template and put it all the way in the corner. I don't have it in the corner right now. I'm just lining up the stamp so that the X's match. And you're going to push it all the way down to that corner. The template is locked in that corner. And then you find center. Then you pick up the stamp. You really do need to have a Misty or a Tim Holtz stamp platform to do this technique. Right here, I'm tacking it down just for temporarily. You can take any card, any size card that will fit on a 6x6 and put it on that template and you're good to go. But you want to tack it down so that it doesn't come up. I'm using Catherine Pooler's Blackjack ink. I like this ink because it's an off black. It's not a gray. It's like legit off black. I guess technically it could be considered a gray. I'm sure it is a gray. But anyway, it's called Blackjack and I like it because it's not as stark or as harsh as black, but it's still black. It's an off black in my opinion. So you stamp it and then you turn. I turned half a rotation. You can turn two. It's up to you. I'm going to turn it again. I'm going to ink it up and then we're going to do it again. And as you can see, the background begins to fill up. This stamp really is cool when you start to use different colors, etc. I have a set that I cannot wait to use in the new year that has to do with crafty friends, and it's amazing. Love turnabouts. So then I just turned it again, inked up the stamp, and we're going to stamp it one last time. And there you have a completely full background. You guys, turnabouts are my jam. My favorite of all time, my favorite stamp I think of all time is the thank you turnabout because you can just use it all the time. I'm pointing that I have stamps. Those little itty bitty stamps that come, they match with the background and you can add color. The problem here is that I did not tack this down well enough and the card came up. And because it's not a perfectly sized 6x6, mine was like 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. I have to hand stamp. So I'm showing you there that I have a little stamp on a block. So I hand stamped that entire background and had the time of my life doing it. Most people will not take the time to hand stamp every single little color on that background, but I love to stamp. So I didn't mind hand stamping. It was freehand stamping. And all of the little shapes come with a little filler piece so that you can color it in or stamp it. So much fun. So here I'm just doing the sentiment. I knew I wanted a super thin strip and a super thin greeting. So I'm using the Simon Says Stamp, I think it's Color Me Trees sentiment here. The one where you can fill in the word. I've used it a couple of times on a couple of cards. And because that background turnabout has the word joy on it, we're just going to add wishing you joy. So now I got to find the little joy and line it up. It's wishing you joy at Christmas. So find the little joy stamp and then we'll put it in there and try to line it up best as possible. And we're going to use the stamp platform and load it up. And there we go. It is perfect. So now we are going to adhere that little itty bitty strip onto this card. This card really, I wanted to stamp all the background little color filler things in one fell swoop so that I could have just kept turning it, but I ended up hand stamping it, so it took me a while, but it's such a fun technique. It's such a fun background, and it could have gone faster had that sheet not come up. If it had been tacked down, I could have just kept turning the stamp until the background, all the little pieces were full, but that was not an option, so fine. No worries. I had to hand stamp it. So this card can be done quickly. Turnabouts can be done very quickly. And if you change the color of ink, you have, I mean, all of them don't have, all turnabouts don't have that fill-in color too. So some of them are just words. And so every time you stamp them in a different color, like you're done, you're finished. This is probably one of my favorite turnabouts just because you can add the little color to it and you can change the theme or whatever you want to do. So I'm looking at this and I'm realizing I need to add a little dimension to that strip. I don't want to lay it flat down. So I'm grabbing some foam squares and I'm going to put foam squares on the back of that, and I'm just marking it so that I can trim off the sides. So I'm going to add a few more little foam squares to the back, pull off all of the tape, trim down the edges, which I'm doing right now, just hand trimming it, and just plop it down. And there we go, a little one on the corner there, and peeling off the backing, and just plop it down. And it's got enough foam in the back so I don't have to be concerned about it going through the mail and squishing. I'm going to hand stamp the greening in a really weird place because it's me. Upper left today, why not? And of course that is probably one of the sentiments. It is from Altenew because the insides of my cards this year pretty much all have Altenew's mini blessing set stamped inside them. Now we got to do a matching envelope. Now I had a great idea. I thought, well, since it's a square card, why not do the turnabout in the center in a watermark color? And I thought, no, the watermark just, it won't show up. It won't be enough. This was a poor idea. I probably should have tacked down the envelope more. Maybe, I don't know. This might have, because stamping on an uneven surface, even though it's paper, is always going to be difficult. And you definitely want to use a stamp positioner when you're doing it. But again, not my finest execution here, and you'll see. So I'm just putting the envelope together. And then I'm going to use some repositionable adhesive to close it because you have a little square there. So we'll throw the template in. We'll grab the stamp out again after we've cleaned it and put it away. I hate that I do that. I do it every time. So we're going to line up the template. This is using the Tim Holtz stamp platform. I like it because it's just bigger. You can do more with the Tim Holtz stamp platform. I always say that. Anything I can do with anything I can do with the Misty, I can do with the Tim Holtz stamp platform. That does not hold true for the Misty. So right here, I'm checking the size and I'm like, shoot, this is a little bit bigger, but I can still make it work. So I grab some Post-it tape and I want to make sure that I have room for the sticker that goes right there, or however I'm going to letter or just to address it so that there's space there. I didn't have to do that either because lately I've been using the Avery labels, but whatever. So I'm putting repositionable tape on there that'll just rub off with your finger. And I'm lining this up on the template. I've already made sure that the stamp is lined up with the template before I glued it down. And remember, this is an uneven surface. So I'm pushing the template all the way up in the corner and I'm closing it. I did not get a good impression because it's an uneven surface. So we're going to go on ahead and stamp it again. And for whatever reason, I got a double stamp. You can't really tell right there, but it's not working out the way that I want. And I thought, oh, I'll keep going. Why not? And it's darker than I wanted it to be. Just, just a fail. I've had a couple of these fails lately. I'm not going to cry about it. I am just going to keep trying. And at this point, I'm like, that's enough. That's enough. They get the point. Moving on. I kept this. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but it wasn't the best either. In hindsight, I would have chosen a different design for the envelope, but hey, this will work. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with me, and I will see you on the next video.